Hi everybody, it's Lincoln Fillmore coming to you. This video of my weekly update is going to be a little bit different than others for a couple of reasons that I'll get into. But first of all, you'll notice I'm not at the Capitol. We typically like to record these on Friday from the Capitol as things are going on, but it's Saturday morning and I'm here in my home. I just, it's been a kind of a typical first week of the session in many ways, but for me, it was a very atypical session because on Wednesday, my wife Cheryl's father passed away, and you can just imagine that would cause a disruption, in my attention and schedule. I want to take a minute to pay tribute to this good man. He's an Air Force veteran. He was a career employee of Utah Power and then Rocky Mountain Power. Just raised a solid family, including my best friend and partner in everything I do, my wonderful wife Cheryl. He was a fantastic grandfather to my two kids. So I just pay outstanding tribute to him. We miss him. This death was expected. We've been looking for it for several months, but you get medical advice about, hey, it's a little, a month or two away and maybe a week or two away, and eventually it comes down to it's just a day or two away, but that doesn't make the end and the moment any less sudden, or the burden that comes from that loss any lighter. So anyway, we've been dealing with that as a family, and I'll continue to deal with that over the next week or two as we get things planned for his remembrance and funeral. And I want everybody to know, this news has been, coming out. It was announced on the Senate floor and things. So Cheryl especially appreciates all the good wishes, the kind words that we've received from friends and neighbors and colleagues. We can feel your prayers and good wishes, and we thank you for those. So shifting gears, as I said, this is kind of a typical first week of the legislative session. Bills and proposals are moving through the process. We've had our first committee hearings. I don't know that there was anything that was particularly notable, except, nothing has really passed yet. It'll have to pass the Senate and the House, but some bills have passed the House, some bills have passed the Senate. I was in a Judiciary Committee meeting on Thursday, where we heard two controversial proposals, that generated a lot of public comment and some media coverage. One of those was from Senator Nate Bluen of Mill Creek. He had a proposal to what he branded the ICE Out bill. I think he was trying to sell it as something to get ICE out of Utah and kind of stop immigration enforcement by the federal government. The bill was a little bit more narrow than that. He said it was not as big as he wanted it to be. We got public comment that this wasn't far enough and that we should just abolish ICE and all border enforcement and abolish the police. I don't think it'll be a surprise to you that our legislature and that committee defeated that proposal. In the same meeting, we heard a proposal from Chris Wilson to really kind of invest resources in the court system. So there's an expansion of 3 additional judges within the district courts across the state. We may actually need more. It's possible there could be continued development there. Maybe we'd see another a juvenile court judge. But it also added 2 judges to the Court of Appeals and 2 judges to the Supreme Court. That bill passed that committee and passed in its second reading on the Senate on Friday. So that'll come up for a third reading on Monday, most likely, and then move over to the House. And there'll be continued action there. That bill has changed through negotiations with senators and with courts. We heard from Judge Durant, Chief Justice Durant, about the state of the judiciary. That happened early in the session on the first day, on Tuesday. So it's always important to hear the perspective, and we want to make sure that the court system is a necessary part of a functioning democracy like ours, right? It's the branch that makes sure that the other 2 branches are following the law appropriately. We really value what the judicial branch of our government does. We want to make sure that they're adequately funded and adequately resourced. Of course, they also settle disputes between individual parties according to the law, and that's really important too. Been a little bit of news about my cell phone bill that kind of reestablishes the state baseline to no phones in schools from bell to bell. It allows school districts to adopt whatever policy they want, but to start from that baseline of kind of 0, right? Instead of starting from a baseline of 100 and figure out where they want to take, whittle that down, we just start from a baseline of 0 and then figure out how we can integrate phones to help students and families and teachers thrive in school. So that bill passed committee, and I imagine that will have its second reading in the Senate on Monday. We can continue to go there. I feel pretty good about its chances in the Senate. Love to hear your thoughts on that. Throughout all this week and the busyness that I've had up at the Capitol and of course away from the Capitol with family matters, I've been trying to stay on top of your emails. I know that there have been a little bit of delay in responding. I don't get to do that as often during the day as is typical for me, but keep the emails coming, keep the text messages. You're welcome to call me. My cell phone and email address will be on the screen here. And I just really appreciate what you're doing. I want to thank my 11-year-old son who's recording this for me. Really appreciate my family. They're always very supportive. During the legislative session, there's always only one person elected to an office, but it's always a family that sacrifices to serve. And so I thank my family for that, especially my wife Cheryl, who's of course grieving her father. So anyway, thank you for your good wishes. We'll get back to you again next week, but keep things coming. We'll stay in contact. I really appreciate your points of view, and thanks so much for watching.